Today is March 16th. Welcome on in to Daily World Baseball Classic Live right here on ClaibsOnline.com. Brought to you by Royal Banks of Missouri, Munganast St. Louis Acura, and all of our spring training coverage has been brought to you by Munganast Burkhardt Alton Toyota. I'm Joe Roderick. He is Bob Ramsey. And Rammer, this is the final show for the next 5 days where I will not be broadcasting live from Lone Depot Stadium.
Well, I tell you, the stuff you had yesterday and the stuff you put out on Twitter was all really good. Your experience in the Dominican-Puerto Rico game and the fans was all pretty cool.
So one thing I did not share in the videos, I was down there in the first inning. That's where the auxiliary press box is. If you haven't seen it on Twitter, at Joe Roderick, go there and check out the videos that I posted yesterday and see that. I have a video from the first inning. I have a video from the 8th inning. Rammer, you can't tell the difference.
It's crazy.
You cannot tell the difference. I mean, it is absolutely. Rammer, you see student sections at college basketball games all the time, and you have for years doing Billikens games. I mean, you see those guys lose their energy as the game goes on.
Often, yeah.
Yes. Zero change. And at one point, I went back. I was there in the first inning. I went and hung out in the main press box and watched the game up top and for the middle part. And then I went back down for the end and wanted to watch it there. And kind of, I'm not sitting there. That's the beauty of getting to go cover these games, to just talk about them doing this, is I don't have to be in front of a computer the whole time, typing every note and doing everything like that. I take it in as an experience and just go and venture around the whole place and just kind of take it all in, knowing that there's going to come a point where I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. So I am about the experience of the events that I'm doing. And at one point in the 8th inning, they show a guy up on the big screen, and he's up there and he's throwing punches and everything. And the fans all start chanting. They're like, Tito, Tito, Tito. And I tap a Puerto Rican fan on the shoulder that was in front of me, and I go, "Who is that?" And he was like, "That's Felix Trinidad." And was in the crowd for the game.
Gosh.
And he was like, he goes, Tito Trinidad. And they're just, he's like telling me all about him. I go, yeah, I know. And I told him, I know the name. I said, I didn't know. I couldn't see who that was or tell that. I would never have known that. And the guy turns, he goes, "You're probably the only American in this whole section."
Probably right.
And I go, I felt that way. Yes. I go, I felt that the entire time I've been in this stadium today. Yes.
That's awesome.
So, so you have, we'll get into the games there. So Rammer, I was there for the 9th inning. I was in this area for the 9th inning. The Puerto Rico wins. They go, they jump around, they celebrate. And then suddenly you see the shock and the fear on the players' faces as you see Edwin Diaz sitting on the ground and players calling for help. You see players crying. You see all of these emotions that change like that. And the fans, I don't think, knew what happened.
Yeah.
The fans, on the TVs up in that section, you could see they were showing this, but the fans were so busy celebrating without any thought in the world of we should be watching what's going on. They were so just, the Dominican Republic fans were getting out of there. The Puerto Rican fans, the party was just starting. And I don't know if they fully realized what was going on. And watching it, I'm sitting there fully focused on it. I didn't understand what was going on because I'm seeing one guy get basically carried off. And then you see Alex Diaz, Edwin's brother, who has to hold on to Yachty and be taken off the field because he is
beside himself.
He's wreck. To the point where I thought, because you couldn't see in the highlights, I thought 2 guys got injured on the play. That's what I thought happened. That's what I tweeted out, that I thought 2 players were injured because Alex Diaz could not bring himself to walk off the field on his own power, much like his brother.
Yeah.
And I thought, did they knock knees? Did something terrible happen to 2 guys at once? And it's just, the quest for answers just begins. And My goodness, I have never experienced something like that, and I don't know if you have either, where it's just goes from up to down so fast.
Well, I'd have to think about it. Probably not. And I tell you, the celebration things, I'm being serious here. I cringe every time during the long baseball season when somebody scores a run or hits a home run and they come in and the guy on deck and they jump in the air to high five or bash forearms or whatever. I in my mind, I see somebody blowing out a knee every time. I wish they'd stop.
I You see, and this is where I think you and I, because I think this is where you and I differ. And I don't know if it's kind of the generation gap that you and I have, because I enjoy.
No, it's 7 knee operations.
I mean, I've had 3, so it's I'm halfway there.
Well, you should know better then.
But to watch the Venezuela-Israel game, in a meaningless game, when Eugenio Suarez hits a home run and everybody's there at home plate ready to greet him, like, that's really freaking cool.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about guys jumping in the air. You know what I'm talking about? They come in.
I know, yeah.
They score a run in the 3rd inning of the 29th game of the year, and they go and the guy on deck, and they both jump in the air and do their forearms together. I just know somebody's going to blow out a knee.
Rammer, I mean, these are professional athletes who are in the top 1% of the top 1% of being in peak physical condition.
Except that doesn't have anything to do with the blown out knee.
But it's a freak
0.
accident. And that's what takes me to the Edwin Diaz injury yesterday. Seeing buffoons on Twitter, such as, members of Barstool or former ESPN Sports Center anchors who will just go nameless here, on there to cancel the whole thing. Steve Cohen should just buy it and just cancel the whole thing. This is ridiculous. It's stupid. It shouldn't be done. And then I love seeing the players come through and defend how much fun and how much enjoyment they have in this tournament and what it means to them. And you see what it means to these countries. This tournament should be an every 4-year event. And I hope that one freak accident doesn't ruin anybody wanting to play in it in the future.
Yeah, those guys that you're talking about, Oberman and who was it on Barstool?
KFC Barstool. So yeah.
They're Mets people.
Yes.
And so I get it, but what are the odds of them saying the exact same thing today had Nolan Arenado blown out his knee?
Right.
I'll tell you what the odds are. 0.
Or just name a random player on Chinese Taipei that would have gotten hurt. That's never going to play in big league
0.
baseball. Yeah. It's because it's their guy.
Very self-serving. And I always do say, what's the point of being in the media if you can't be self-serving? But let's at least call it what it is.
Mm-hmm. So you look at that and it's Rammer, I once tore my meniscus in a grocery store. Okay, like that, it's a freak accident, and I too am, top 1% of 1%. So I mean, I get it. Of peak physical condition, of peak, yeah, exactly, like right up there, right up, yeah.
Wrong with I can't,
no, the connection is great. The connection is absolutely fine. I'm just saying, freak accidents happen, and it sucks. And you don't expect that to happen, but to sit here and go, it's because he was celebrating and he wouldn't have done that if he was in spring training. Oh, but wait, because last year in 2022, in spring training in Port St. Lucie, Buck Showalter had his New York Mets simulating how they would celebrate if they won Game 7 of the World Series, with Edwin Diaz on the mound, throwing gloves up in the air, jumping on home plate, dogpiling each other, doing all of that. So if that injury would have happened there to Edwin Diaz, should Buck Showalter have been fired? Should Stephen Cohen have sold the team immediately, because how dare he allow his team, his product, to do that on the field? No. Again, it was a freak accident. What happened? It sucks. I feel bad for the Mets, especially when you add on to the fact the Jose Quintana news that happened earlier in the day as well, that now he's out till July because of the benign cyst on his rib. It's, you know what? It sucks. It really, really sucks. And I would sit here and I would say the same thing. At least I think I would say the same thing if it was a Cardinal that this happened to. That, you know what? I really looked forward to the World Baseball Classic. It sucks that a major injury happened to somebody that is so fun and such a. It really is. Last year, I mean, he was one of the faces of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and so the burning question coming out of the whole incident is Timmy Trumpet going to still play?
Rammer, that's it. Oh, by the way, I'm glad you mentioned that because this is something that I tweeted this out earlier. So I'm sitting there as we went in right field for this. I had my phone going because Hudson, my son, loves the Timmy Trumpet entrance, loves it. And I'm thinking they got to play it if he comes in, right? And so I have my phone going. I'm ready to record it. And he runs out. I don't hear Timmy Trumpet. I hear Puerto Rico's fans just going nuts over the fact that their closer, their country's closer, one of the best closers in baseball, is entering the game. And they're, but then this morning, Rammer, I see John Morosi tweet out a video of Edwin Diaz coming in at Lone Depot Park from the press box, clearly hearing Timmy Trumpets over the speakers. The fans in right field were so loud.
Wow. You couldn't hear it.
That I could not hear the music that was coming in from over the speakers.
That's crazy because stadiums and arenas all over the nation now turn it up to jet engine decibels. That's crazy.
That's how loud they were.
Wow.
Yes. That is how. So that now takes us to what we have coming up on Friday and Saturday, the next two quarterfinals games. We know Cuba and Japan are in the semifinals waiting for their opponents. You are going, I mean, you want to talk about atmosphere. Friday night, Rammer. We're not going to be able to do a show on Friday together because you're doing SLU women's basketball. We will have Puerto Rico, not knowing what kind of mental, emotional state they're going to be in, taking on Mexico.
Be crazy.
So the Mexican fans now are going to be making their way into Miami. The Cuban fans are making their way to Miami. It is those having Puerto Rico versus Mexico in that game is going to be so much fun.
It will be. Absolutely right.
The pitchers.
And you'll be there?
Rammer, I'm not missing an inning of any of these games from here on out.
Awesome.
Marcus Stroman, Julio Urias on the mound for those two teams. Marcus Stroman with Puerto Rico, and Julio Urias for Mexico, the bright young star for the Los Angeles Dodgers. That is going to be a fun pitching matchup. And then we'll be back on Saturday to preview the game between Venezuela and Team USA. From what I have heard, from what I have been told, Adam Wainwright believes he is the starter for that game. They have not announced a starter. Adam Wainwright believes he is a starter, which would continue his annual streak of facing Jose Altuve in the month of March.
There you go. That's funny.
By the way, so speaking of the Venezuelan team, did witness a moment shared between Yachty and Miguel Cabrera yesterday in the locker room. This was fun. I should have mentioned this yesterday when you and I were doing the show. I forgot to mention this. So it brought me back to high school basketball, high school baseball, summer baseball tournaments. You go into the under, the underbelly, whatever, the tunnels of Marlins of Lone Depot. And they had all these curtains and everything set up. And right when you get down there, and you could see people back there, couldn't really see who it was. You could see they all had bleached blonde hair. So I'm like, okay, that must be the Puerto Rican team that's hanging out back there. Kind of weird. They had to wait for Team Venezuela to leave the clubhouse so they could get into the clubhouse. Similar to, at Ballparks National, Rammer, when one game ends, you got to wait for that dugout to clear before the next team can get into the dugout.
Clear them out. Let's go.
When is the last time that anyone on that Puerto Rican team had to wait for a dugout to be cleared and not just walk into a clubhouse with everything set up for them just right there at their lockers ready to go?
14U baseball.
So I thought that was funny.
That
that, that's one of the things you don't think about with this, that they don't get to just sit and hang out in their clubhouse for hours
Right.
beforehand. I mean, you're talking, this was a good 30, 40 minutes after the Israel-Venezuela game ended. Their, batting practice isn't even set up yet, and the team's not even in the locker room ready to go. So that was, one of the little things that has happened, I guess, at all the venues that we've seen so far, because, one game after
Yeah,
another.
they're set up for league games, not tournaments.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was, but Yachty and Miguel Cabrera ran into each other beforehand and hugged and talked. And I did not realize just how enormous of a person Miguel Cabrera is.
Oh my God, he's huge. When he came up, he and Mike Lowell next to each other in the runway behind their dugout, going to interview Mike Lowell, and Cabrera stopped and talked to him. They're just both enormous human beings.
I tweeted you or I texted you this, Rammer. You bring up Mike Lowell. I have to tell my Mike Lowell story from last night.
It's beautiful. You're a superhero.
So the media level is level 6. Where I watched the game for the most part was around level 3. At one point in the game yesterday, I was going from level 6 down to level 3. The elevator stopped at level 4, which is like the suite level. There was a man from Puerto Rico standing next to Mike Lowell. I guess this guy was part of the Puerto Rican radio broadcast, and they were trying to bring Mike Lowell, a Puerto Rican, up to the broadcast booth to have him join commentary for an inning. Mike Lowell was there as a fan. He had the Puerto Rican flag draped around him like a cape. He was wearing his Marlins ring, Marlins World Series ring, and that's where I was like, that guy looks like Mike Lowell. Look down at his hand. I see the big ass ring.
That looks like a championship ring.
And I was like, okay. And the guy's like, oh, I'm taking him up to be on the radio. And the security was like, he doesn't have a credential. Like, we can't let him in. He's like, no, he's a guest. He's a guest. We're taking him up. And she's like, no credential, can't come in. And I start laughing because neither one of them are going to say it. Like, neither one of them, I don't think either one, like,
big time.
Yeah, Mike Lowell's not going to be like, do you know who I am? And I start laughing and I go, that's Mike Lowell. I go, he won a World Series here for the Marlins. I go, I think he can get on the elevator. While there was a female photographer next on the elevator too. And her eyes were just like the whole time, like she knew who Mike Lowell was and she couldn't believe that he was being rejected.
But
so security finally goes, whatever, like, okay. And he gets on the elevator, he turns, he goes, thanks. And I said, somebody had to say it.
No, that's beautiful. And he said, thanks to you. He didn't give him guff. He says, don't you know who I am? I've interviewed him 2 or 3 times. Unbelievable gentleman. Just really a great guy.
And just there, you see all the countries that and the people from those countries. I mean, he was there in a city that he played a lot of his career in, and there to watch his country move on to the next round. So you see how much this does mean to some. I mean, he was there as a super fan, cape wrapped, flag draped around him. So you see just how much this means to these guys. So Rammer, we have I mentioned those games that we have coming up. The way that it looks, the way the schedule looks the rest of the way. And you have Cuba will face the winner of USA and Venezuela on Sunday. And then on Monday, you will have Japan face the winner of us Japan. No, wait, where am I at here? I'm sorry. I'm Puerto Rico and Mexico. So Puerto Rico, Mexico winner on Friday. They don't play till Monday. And then the U.S. would play Saturday and then again on Sunday. So that's how it works. At least that's according to MLB's website, World Baseball Classic website. I don't know if any of that changes if USA wins or whatever. So that is how it looks. But you and I will talk again on Saturday. Who you got in that game between Puerto Rico and Mexico, Rammer?
I think I'm going to go with Puerto Rico.
I don't think they're going to be. I think they're going to be too emotional in that game. I think the Mexican team, they've been hitting the heck out of the ball, and I think Julio Urias, he gets more pitches next round. They get to throw more pitches now, so that's extended. We'll see if Julio Urias can have a better start than what he did his first go around when the team lost to Colombia. in that first game. He's got a lot to prove. We will be back here on Saturday for that. If you want to follow all of my coverage, I've been posting a lot on Twitter and on Instagram, Joe Roderick at both of those, first and last name. So follow me on there and check both of those out for all of the coverage, and hopefully a whole lot more coming your way as well. I don't know. You know what? I know maybe I know you can't do it tomorrow. Maybe we'll have a Daily World Baseball Classic live. I think I can round up a special guest for that broadcast.
Or,
so
a nice monologue displaying the atmosphere would always be good. So who knows when Joe will show up again?
Yeah, I got an idea. I got something percolating up here. We'll see.
Scary.
We'll see what happens. I'll be driving down to Miami, by the way, in my 2023 Highlander Hybrid, courtesy of Munganast Burkhart Alton Toyota. A fantastic car. Everybody that's been in it so far has just raved about just how amazing this car is. Such celebrities as Ben Boyd, who I was hanging out with earlier. Yeah. So it's been a great ride, taking it down there for the rest of the games this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. Rammer, enjoy your trip to the women's SLU game. Hopefully they have a nice long run in the tournament, and you and Earl have a few more games to call for this.
Actually, my broadcast partner will be Colin Suri, who has done the play-by-play for the women all year.
Nice.
And it's going to be really exciting. It'll be 1 o'clock Eastern time, 1 o'clock Eastern, noon Central on radio in St. Louis. So we'll have a lot of fun.
He is Bob Ramsey. I'm Joe Roderick. Hey, we've been brought to you by Royal Banks of Missouri, Munganast St. Louis Acura, and Munganast Burkhart Alton Toyota right here on ClaibsOnline.com.
From our roots in St. Louis, Royal Banks of Missouri is branching out to continue serving you with our locations in St. Charles, Jerseyville, Granite City, and now in Hannibal, Center, and New London. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank in your community.